on February 19, 1945 at 0900 hours Green Beach, Jima. The modified M4A3 Sherman tanks that emerged from the fifth wave of landing craft brought with them a new weapon that would revolutionize cave warfare in the Pacific. The Marines called them Zippo Tanks, after the reliable cigarette lighter, but the Japanese would soon dub them no Kuruma, or Chariots of Fire. These 8 specially modified tanks, 4 assigned to the 4th Tank Battalion and 4 to the 5th, carried napalm, thickened gasoline that could project streams of fire up to 400 feet under optimal conditions. The weapon would turn once impregnable Japanese fortifications into death traps. This game-changing weapon marked a shift not only in tactics but also in the morale of the Japanese defenders. Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, who commanded the defense of Iwo Jima, had spent months preparing for this day. After the fall of Saipan in July 1944, he studied every American assault since the Battle of Tarawa. He came to a radical conclusion that defied 3 years of Japanese tactical doctrine. The Americans could not be stopped on the beaches. From his underground command post 75 feet beneath the surface, Kuribayashi issued his defense order on December 1, 1944, which stated, "We shall not engage the enemy on the beaches. We shall let him come to us, and we shall kill him from positions he cannot reach." The mathematics of defense had shifted. In previous battles, like Tarawa and Saipan, Japanese forces had suffered catastrophic losses, 500 men in 76 hours at Tarawa and 30,000 in less than a month at Saipan. But at Iwo Jima, Kuribayashi commanded 21,000 men who had built an intricate underground network of 500 caves and pillboxes, stretching over 11 miles. The construction involved more than 5,000 men working in harsh conditions. Caves varied in size, with some holding up to 400 men. Despite the extreme heat and toxic sulfur fumes, they were designed to withstand almost anything the Americans could throw at them, except one new weapon, the flame tank. The solution to breaking these fortified positions came from a desperate collaboration. In the marshes in 1944, Marine tanks had encountered Japanese bunkers impervious to regular artillery. To solve this, the U.S. Navy converted damaged M4A3 Sherman tanks into flamethrowers. This new weapon, designated POAWSH-1, was equipped with a Mark I Navy flame projector. The flamethrower used thickened gasoline and napalm, creating a stream of fire capable of reaching 400 feet. Tests showed that the fire could follow tunnels and burn for up to 80 seconds, filling caves with a 2,000 Grisef inferno. The first combat deployment of these flame tanks occurred on February 21, 1945, on the eastern slopes of Mount Suribachi. The flame tanks, like Satan, would advance to about 150 yards from Japanese cave positions. At 14:37 hours, the flame gunner triggered the Mark I projector, sending a stream of liquid fire that cascaded into caves. The flames would travel through tunnels, causing instant casualties, as the intense heat and lack of oxygen made survival impossible. Traditional Japanese defenses, which had accounted for portable flamethrowers with limited range, were utterly unprepared for the destructive power of these tanks. By February 23, 1945, flame tanks were integral to the final assault on Mount Suribachi. With traditional tactics proving costly, the flame tanks operated in pairs, one providing covering fire while the other deployed flames on cave entrances. These tanks neutralized 47 cave positions while minimizing Marine casualties to just 3 wounded. Meanwhile, the Japanese defenders' response was swift. Their communications revealed that they were unprepared for the appearance of flame tanks, and by February 23, the Suribachi garrison had requested permission for a final charge, unable to hold against the devastating new weapon. The psychological impact of the flame tanks was immense. Japanese forces, accustomed to fighting to the death, began to abandon positions rather than face the flames. By February 26, 1945, the use of flame tanks at Motoyama Airfield had resulted in Japanese forces surrendering in significant numbers. The traditional Japanese warrior code, which had led to fanatical resistance in previous battles, began to break down as soldiers chose surrender over certain death by burning. The use of flame tanks had shattered Japanese defensive tactics, neutralizing complex tunnel systems and causing psychological collapse. By March 2, 1945, their effectiveness in systematically reducing strong points, like those at Motoyama, was proven. The Japanese defensive doctrine that had once seemed impregnable had been broken by a single new weapon, the flame tank. By March 10, 1945, Experimental seismic detection equipment was introduced in the Pacific, operated by naval technical specialists. Using modified oil exploration gear, teams could detect underground tunnel systems, providing valuable targeting information to flame tank commanders. Major General Graves Erskine, leading the 3rd Marine Division, described this new approach as three-dimensional warfare, where the fighting took place not just above and on the surface, but also underground. The combination of seismic detection and flame weapons proved highly effective against the deep, complex tunnel systems constructed by the Japanese. By March 16, the use of flame tanks had significantly evolved. While their standard effective range remained 150 to 200 yards, crews had made modifications to pressure and fuel to extend their range when needed. Marine Tank Battalion records show various technical improvements made during combat. The psychological impact of these weapons was even more significant than their physical capabilities. Japanese communications intercepted by U.S. radio intelligence revealed that the Japanese believed American flame weapons had unlimited range, contributing to the collapse of their defenses. Marine Corps records document that flame tanks were deployed for 36 days on Iwo Jima from February 19 to March 26, 1945. 8 tanks were deployed, 4 with the 4th Tank Battalion and 4 with the 5th. On peak operational days, they consumed between 5,000 to 10,000 gallons of fuel. Hundreds of cave positions were neutralized, and the number of Japanese casualties due to flame weapons was estimated to be in the thousands, though the exact figure was unclear. The use of flame tanks drastically reduced Marine casualties, which would have been much higher with traditional assault tactics. Flame tank operations could neutralize several positions per hour with minimal loss of life on the American side. The success of the flame tanks on Iwo Jima had a significant impact on future operations, including the planning of Operation Downfall, the proposed invasion of Japan. Joint Chiefs of Staff documents indicated that planners called for massive flame tank production after seeing the results on Iwo Jima. Post-war interrogations by the United States Strategic Bombing Survey revealed that Japanese military leaders recognized the impact of flame tanks, admitting that the weapon had effectively negated their entire defensive strategy. Some Japanese leaders even acknowledged that the arrival of flame tanks was one of the factors influencing Japan's eventual surrender, alongside the threat of atomic weapons. Corporal Herschel Woody Williams, awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions on February 23, 1945, provided one of the most detailed accounts of flame operations. Using a portable flamethrower, Williams eliminated multiple Japanese positions while covered by riflemen. In his citation, it was noted that he neutralized position after position, enabling the Marines to advance. Williams later testified about the tactical importance of flame weapons, emphasizing their effectiveness in clearing positions that would have cost many lives using conventional methods. He said, "The Japanese had built these positions to withstand everything we had. But fire goes where bullets can't. It finds every space, every corner. One flame tank could do what would cost us dozens of men to accomplish." Post-war studies by the Veterans Administration found that flame tank crews experienced combat stress at higher rates than other armored units. The intimate nature of flame warfare, with the visual and auditory awareness of enemy casualties, created unique psychological challenges for the crew members. Captured Japanese documents and post-war interrogations showed that the Japanese were completely unprepared for vehicle-mounted flame weapons with extended range and massive fuel capacity. General Kurabayashi's final message, sent before his death in late March, acknowledged, "Enemy flame tanks have neutralized our cave defenses. Positions requiring months to construct are destroyed in minutes. American technology has overcome Japanese spirit." This message, intercepted by U.S. intelligence, confirmed the decisive impact of flame weapons. Survivors of the battle testified to the terror these weapons caused. One survivor told war crimes investigators that soldiers who had faced death bravely in previous battles fled from flame tanks, as the weapons created a form of death that contradicted their sense of honorable military service. By April 1, 1945, the lessons learned at Iwo Jima were applied to Okinawa. Marine Corps records show an expanded deployment of flame tanks with improved tactics based on the experiences of Iwo Jima. Colonel Hirami Yahara, the operations officer for the Japanese 32nd Army on Okinawa, had studied Iwo Jima reports, and his defensive preparations included water reservoirs, extended tunnel systems, and flame barriers, all of which proved ineffective against the American tactics. The 713th Flamethrower Tank Battalion, specifically created for Okinawa operations, proved even more effective than those at Iwo Jima. The flame tank operations also involved significant industrial support beyond the weapons themselves. Navy construction battalions built fuel storage and mixing facilities, even during combat. By the end of the battle, infrastructure included underground fuel storage, mixing stations for napalm preparation, miles of fuel distribution pipelines, and forward resupply points. The entire supply chain, from stateside chemical plants to the front lines, demonstrated American industrial capacity, which Japan could not match. Medical records from Navy hospital ships documented the unique casualties caused by flame weapons, including burns, smoke inhalation, and carbon monoxide poisoning. The USS Samaritan reported treating both American and Japanese burn casualties, though Japanese soldiers initially resisted treatment, believing they had dishonored themselves by surviving. The International Red Cross, allowed to inspect U.S. facilities, noted that Japanese soldiers expressed particular fear of flame weapons, which contributed to the unprecedented number of surrenders during the Pacific War. The flame tank innovations of Iwo Jima influenced military development for decades. Military histories trace the lineage of these weapons to flame tanks used during the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and modern thermobaric weapons. The basic principle, using burning liquid to clear enclosed spaces, remains relevant in modern combat. Contemporary military doctrine for tunnel and cave warfare still references the lessons learned from the Iwo Jima flame tank operations. The United States Marine Corps's official history states, "The development of the flamethrowing tank was one of the most significant American technical innovations in the Pacific War." At Iwo Jima, these weapons proved decisive in reducing Japanese cave positions that would have cost thousands of Marine casualties using conventional tactics. Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, noted in his report, "The flamethrowing tanks proved to be the most effective weapon for the reduction of Japanese cave defenses. Without these weapons, our casualties would have been infinitely greater." General Holland Smith, commanding the V Amphibious Corps, wrote, "The 8 flame tanks on Iwo Jima were worth a battalion of infantry in terms of their ability to neutralize Japanese fortifications. They saved countless Marine lives. While flame tanks reduced American casualties, they created moral challenges documented by military chaplains. Marines operating the tanks struggled with the nature of their weapon, even while recognizing its necessity. Chaplains reported increased requests for counseling from flame tank crews compared to other units. The psychological defeat of the Japanese, which preceded their physical defeat, marked the collapse of their defensive strategy. Soldiers who were prepared to die in conventional combat fled from a form of death they had never anticipated. Post-war war crimes trials did not prosecute the use of flame weapons by either side, as they were considered a legitimate response to the Japanese cave fortifications that could not be effectively destroyed by other means without incurring excessive casualties. Since 1970, the annual reunions of veterans from both Japan and the United States have provided a space for reconciliation. These gatherings, documented by both governments, have shown how former enemies have found common ground. At the 40th anniversary reunion in 1985, American and Japanese veterans met at the very sites where flame tanks had been used. Japanese survivors acknowledged the weapon's effectiveness, while Americans expressed respect for the courage of their former adversaries. These meetings, carefully recorded by military historians, highlight the shared experiences that have helped foster mutual understanding between former foes. The 85th anniversary reunion, held in March 2025, included only 7 American veterans, emphasizing the passing of the generation that fought in the Pacific War. Their final testimonies, recorded for historical preservation, reflect both the necessity and the horrors of flame warfare. The National Archives holds extensive documentation on flame tank operations at Iwo Jima, including tank battalion war diaries, after-action reports, and technical assessments. Japanese documents captured after the battle and testimony from post-war interrogations further confirm the weapon's impact. The Marine Corps History Division maintains official records documenting how flame tanks fundamentally altered cave warfare tactics, showing that technological innovation could overcome defensive strategies that had previously resulted in thousands of casualties. Photographic and film evidence preserved in military archives captures the devastating effectiveness of flame tanks in action, their streams of fire reaching Japanese positions. The deployment of just 8 flame tanks at Iwo Jima marked more than a tactical innovation. It demonstrated how industrial capacity and technological development could transform combat dynamics. These tanks neutralized the defensive advantages the Japanese had spent months creating. The streams of liquid fire that could reach up to 400 feet under optimal conditions didn't just clear caves. They shattered illusions about the nature of modern industrial warfare. Japanese forces, who had prepared for conventional assaults, found themselves up against a weapon that flowed through their defenses as inevitably as victory flowed from industrial superiority. The Japanese soldiers who fled their caves, when confronted by flame tanks, made rational decisions in the face of a technology that turned their fortifications into death traps. Their meticulous preparations, based on traditional combat expectations, proved ineffective against the relentless advance of liquid fire, which followed gravity through tunnels, consuming oxygen and leaving no escape. The flame tanks saved thousands of American lives by preventing the massive casualties that would have resulted from the slow, grueling process of clearing each cave by hand. However, the weapon also inflicted a form of death that haunted those who used it and terrified those who faced it. This duality, salvation for one side, horror for the other, defines the legacy of flame warfare. Military historians now recognize the flame tanks at Iwo Jima as a pivotal innovation that shortened the battle and significantly reduced American casualties. The tanks demonstrated that in modern industrial warfare, technological superiority could overwhelm human courage and determination when the disparity between the two became overwhelming. The 8 flame tanks deployed to Iwo Jima proved a fundamental truth of industrial age warfare. Victory does not necessarily belong to the brave, but to those with superior tools and the industrial capacity to deploy them effectively. The Japanese defenders learned that their warrior spirit could not stop liquid fire, that courage could not overcome the laws of chemistry, and that determination meant nothing when flames flowed through tunnels as relentlessly as water seeking its level. The battle for Iwo Jima ended on March 26, 1945, after 36 days of intense fighting. Of the approximately 24,000 Japanese defenders, roughly 20,000 were killed, and only 216 surrendered, a shocking figure in the context of Pacific War operations. American forces suffered 640 killed and 17,913 wounded, according to official casualty reports. Without the flame tanks, these casualties would have been far higher. The transformation was complete, from faith in defensive fortifications to the realization that technology could negate any positional advantage. The flame tanks demonstrated that in the arithmetic of modern warfare, industrial capacity multiplied by technological innovation equals victory, regardless of the courage and determination of those on the other side. Today, Iwo Jima, now known by its Japanese name, Iwo Kodo, stands as a monument to the high cost of victory in modern warfare. The caves that once sheltered Japanese defenders remain, some still bearing scorch marks from the flame tank attacks. They serve as permanent reminders of the moment when liquid fire changed the nature of cave warfare and highlighted the decisive power of industrial might in modern combat.